Hi everyone, it's Adrian from Living Holistic Health here. I just want to talk to you a little bit today about autoimmune conditions and particularly the role that infections play in autoimmune conditions and what needs to be done about them. Now, autoimmune conditions, what we know from the recent literature is they can be triggered by multiple what we call chronic infections, okay? So these are infections that could be bacterial, could be viral, could be yeasts, could be parasites, or a combination of all of those, or some of those. And what we need to do when we're looking at what's triggering these autoimmune conditions is to work out exactly what it is that is causing these conditions, which agents or which things in particular are causing the problem, and then we need to reduce the impact that that's having on the body. But that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. For a lot of people, they'll get tests run for their autoimmune conditions, and this might have happened to yourself or someone you know. The test results come back as inconclusive, but they get straight put onto medication, which is immunosuppressive, or it suppresses the immune system in nature, which then means that these infections that they've got in their bodies aren't actually necessarily being dealt with. And then when they get put on the immunosuppressive drugs, these infections come out and they flare up, and the people feel really sick and horrible. So the main reason, they might get put onto antibiotics as well, which are good, but unfortunately, they can do some of the job, but unfortunately with antibiotics, the main problem is that with bacterial infections live in what we call little biofilms or little colonies which inhabit different places in the body, and they're very, very hard to get rid of, these biofilms. Antibiotics are really good at getting rid of bad bacteria that's floating around inside the bloodstream, but antibiotics aren't very good at actually getting into the biofilms and destroying the biofilms, so with the places where these bacteria actually live and colonize. Because once the antibiotics are gone, those little bacteria that you have there, they live inside the biofilms, and once the antibiotics are gone, they'll come out of the biofilms and they'll start reinfesting and causing illness and making you feel unwell again, because you won't be able to get rid of them with just antibiotics. And there's also antibiotic resistance, which can develop, because a lot of the antibiotics that are given to people work on the cell walls of the bacteria, and they try and knock out the cell walls or punch a hole in it like with a hammer to try and kill the bacteria that are causing you mischief. But these bacteria are very, very smart, and they can develop this thing called antibiotic resistance, and they can actually exist without having a cell wall. So when the antibiotic comes along to try and kill the bacteria, the cell wall is no longer there on the bacteria because it's learnt that it has to get rid of that to survive the antibiotic, and it can survive in the body, and the antibiotics don't work anymore. That's how antibiotic resistance works. So really, really important to understand that herbs, antimicrobial herbs and antimicrobial essential oils are really, really important to go in and actually attack those biofilms, because they've got properties in them which will actually go in and attack the bacteria in those biofilms and help get rid of them from the body. So when we're talking about clearing infections, particularly with autoimmune conditions or any infections in general, we really want to make sure we're targeting those biofilms and not just relying on antibiotics to try and knock out any other infections, to make sure that we're getting to the root cause of the problems, okay? So particularly with the autoimmune conditions, if you find that you are on antibiotics for any great length of time, have a bit of a think about how we can possibly, or talk to your GP or come and see us about how we can attack any of those biofilms and get rid of the houses where those bacteria live, so that we can get rid of it from your body or reduce it as much as possible so that you're feeling better, and then hopefully the drugs can do their job effectively, and you'll feel better in the long run. So that's a little bit about infections. There's a lot more to it with autoimmunity. We've got more information on our website, but have a bit of a think about if that's something that you're currently grappling with. You know, there are other ways to tackle this infection problem rather than just it's either been inconclusive on the test or just with antibiotic therapy. So have a bit of a think about that, and hopefully that gives you a little bit more information on why that's so important for you. Okay, thanks very much.